Hey friends, welcome back to the Wonder in the Weeds show. Just a reminder that this is part 2 of a 2-part episode where I spoke about my health journey and how I got where I am today. Lots of topics last week about women's health and the frustration of feeling ignored and not cared for, and really kind of some dark days of not, loving my body for the first time in my life. I know I'm very lucky that it was the first time in my life, but it was pretty scary times for a little while there. So if you missed that, go ahead back and listen to part 1. But this is part 2 of what happens next, how I got where I am today, and the power of advocating for yourself and the message to keep fighting. You are worth it. Thanks for listening. So then, actually kind of a little bit at the encouragement of my personal trainer, one time as we're like doing something, I don't know, with the TRX ropes or something, she goes, "Have you ever thought about having breast reduction surgery?" And I was like, all the time. Since I was 16, I've thought of having that, but I didn't think it was an option. I thought, it's cosmetic surgery. I don't have the kind of money for cosmetic surgery. I can't, whatever. And honestly, up until probably that point, it had just been vanity more than anything. They weren't, yes, like, bras are expensive, and yes, I had shoulder pain, but like nothing that I was just, again, I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to live this way. At that point though, I was like, yeah, they're totally getting in the way of my life. Like I can't exercise the way I want to exercise. I'm in chronic pain. My neck is in chronic pain. My back is in chronic pain. And now I at least have the understanding of it's not my fault. For a long time, the pain and the fatigue and all of that stuff, I blamed it on myself. I blamed it on whatever was making me fat and lazy, according to me. I should put lazy in quotes because I wasn't lazy. I just felt that way because I had zero energy. So at that point, though, I was like, yeah, like I'm working out a lot and like these are never changing. Like I'm 50 at this point. They're not going to get perkier, and they're definitely not going to be less heavy at any point in my life. So let me find somebody. And at the same time, I had seen this local surgeon on TikTok talking about doing breast reduction surgeries for teenagers. And I was like, wait a minute. Like if that's an option, like if teenagers can have it, then there's got to be some, like, I got to be able to, whatever. I just figured, let me go check it out. So I went to her office. We did a whole workup and she was like, yeah, you're a perfect candidate. Your life is going to be completely changed. Like felt excited to do it. I think that's like the vibe I got, was that she was like, oh my God, I'm going to change your life. And it felt that way. And then we scheduled the surgery. I'm still, by the way, still working out, still doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I've maybe lost 10 pounds at this point. I don't know. I haven't lost any inches. Like actually, that's what I have lost. I've lost inches, but not enough to really notice. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh, good, I'm going to have the surgery and that's going to do it for me. So the surgeon's office calls me, I don't know, a couple weeks after we booked the surgery. And she says, we can't do the surgery. We just got your blood work back. And we think your A1C, which is the measurement of sugar, basically sugar in your blood. So like, it's the number that diabetics use to sort of track, and it's not glucose, so it's not your glucose level. A1C is over 3 months. They look at sort of how much sugar do you have in your blood. That's a very simple way of putting it. I'm sure there's much more biology to it than that, but what my understanding is, your A1C is sort of the precursor to, are you diabetic, are you pre-diabetic, are you whatever. I have had a number that is, I don't even know if it was I think it was I think it was finally pre-diabetic. So let's say, I think when the surgeon called me, it was 6.7. I had been running around like 6.1, 6.4 for a good 3 years. Every time I'd go for a physical, he would say like, it's a little high, but you're okay. Meanwhile, I have a family history of diabetes. My sister has it. My dad had it. My nephew has it. Like, I mean, I think all of my siblings at some point have been on medication for it. And in a lot of cases, maybe it's weight related, but in a lot of cases, it's not weight related. And so we have a family history of diabetes. And my dad was not overweight, so his was just straight up diabetes. But again, and we could do a whole other episode on this, that there's like this stigma around diabetes, like somehow you caused it, you got it. And I know that was my mindset. I was like, I will not get it. I will do everything in my power to not eat poorly. I stopped drinking for a while. Like I was doing everything I thought to keep myself from getting diabetes. Meanwhile, and my GP was like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. You're just low enough. My glucose was never super high, so the A1C wasn't as startling as it might have been. The surgeon says, I'm not going to do it. It's going to affect scarring. You got to get your A1C down. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not going to do surgery until it comes. I don't even know what number she gave me, but I was devastated. And strangely, the timing's so strange, that same week, I can't remember if it was before or after. I think it was before. I think it was right after, but I had scheduled an appointment with a gynecologist who is known for hormone replacement. Like she was a menopause specialist essentially. And I was like, maybe that's what's going on with me. Like at this point, I'm thinking, even though I kept my ovaries, like, why am I not losing weight? Why do I hate my husband? Why do I think I was still sleeping okay, but like everything hurt. My hips, my ankles, my knees, all of it. Like I had these problems that I was equating to being overweight, but I was working out so frequently that I was like, I don't think this is that anymore. Like, I think this is something else. So I had made an appointment tangentially. I was going to this surgeon and I was going to this gynecologist. So I went to the gynecologist and I said to her, hey, I really wanted to have breast reduction surgery, but they're not going to do it because my A1C is too high. After we'd done the whole workup of hormones and everything else. So she's like, okay. Actually, that's not true. Before I told her that, she said to me, here's where your blood work is. Here's what I see. You have this family history of diabetes. I think we need to take care of your weight first, and then we can deal with everything else. And I was like, okay, so it is my weight. And she goes, well, no, it's not your weight. Like your hips don't hurt because of your weight. Your hips probably hurt because your estrogen's low, but your weight is a problem. And it's going to be a problem for you. And you have this family history of diabetes. So you might not be diabetic yet, according to the charts, but you're going to be if you don't take care of this right away. So she immediately put me on 2 different medications, a Metformin, which is like, I think everybody who's ever pre-diabetic is like, oh yeah, Metformin. And she put me on spironolactone, which is a drug for an anti-inflammatory, or it's not an anti-inflammatory, but it's a water retention thing. Diuretic. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And a GLP-1. She put me on a GLP-1. And I had been so hesitant to try the GLP-1 for years. My husband, through this whole thing, every once in a while, he'd be like, we'd see a commercial or something, he'd be like, have you ever thought of that? And I was so resistant because it felt like cheating to me at the time. My mindset was like, gastric bypass and GLP-1s are cheating. And if other people did it, I mean, remember to the back at the beginning of this conversation, my work in health coaching was with gastric bypass patients. So I had no judgment with them. Like, of course they should have that surgery. That's exactly what they need. But I was a health coach. I knew how to take care of my weight. I knew how to manage my weight. I knew how to eat healthy. I knew how to have a healthy lifestyle. I shouldn't have to, quote unquote, use a GLP-1 or have gastric bypass surgery. And then there she was looking at me going, here's the only way through this is a GLP-1. And she didn't say it that way. She was much more, wonderful about it. Actually, she sort of picked right up on my hesitation and was like, do you not want to try it because you're afraid of it? Do you not want to try it because you think you shouldn't have to? Do you think it's cheating? Like she knew all the barriers, and we talked about it a lot. And she was like, look, you have a family history of diabetes. This is a medicine to keep you from falling into that. Like, let's treat it. Let's treat you for diabetes. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So I went on the 3 at first. In addition, she's prescribed progesterone, or first she just prescribed estrogen. And then like a month later when I went for a follow-up, which first of all, this is the first doctor that monitored me frequently. It wasn't like come in a year or come in, here's 1 million pills, see you when I see you. It was like, here's something, come see me in 4 weeks, come see me in another 4 weeks, come and see me in another 4 weeks. And she was out of pocket because of course they're out of pocket. The good ones are always out of pocket. But she did it with like, here's the money you pay. And it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't outrageous. And you get like 3 follow-ups with that. Like that covers this, this, and this. So it wasn't like I was, writing a check for hundreds of dollars every time I walked through the door. And all my medications were insurance. She went through insurance for all of my prescriptions. So, and I could get reimbursed. I could get reimbursed. She gave me the bill to get reimbursed from it. My insurance didn't, but I could have. She did everything she could to get me reimbursed. So that was in July, I think. I started all that. And I called the surgeon and I said, can we please make a follow-up appointment for August so that I can book this surgery before the year's out? And she was a little hesitant, the nurse. She was like, I mean, you just started. I was like, please, can we please do follow-up blood work in a month to see if I can schedule this surgery? So I started at a 6.7. You're not even supposed to take the A1C because it's a 3-month thing. So you're not even really supposed to do it that quickly. So I actually must have started it. Yeah, it was July. And then it was the end of August where I had my blood work done again. So it was a full 60 days. So it wasn't 3 months, but it was enough that my A1C dropped like a full point, I think. So if it was 6.7, I think it was 5.4 when I went back again. So I immediately called my surgeon and I was like, hey, I just got my blood work. I'm sending it over to you. She was like, this looks great. We're going to schedule you for November. She scheduled me for November. I was on the GLP and the metformin. Because GLP, it was the time where GLPs were like just a mess. There wasn't enough of them. You couldn't get them at the pharmacy. Sometimes you could, sometimes you couldn't. Insurance is weird with GLP-1s. So like I started at the lowest dose and had great success with the lowest dose, but insurance, in order to cover it, will make you bump up. Whether you're having results or not, they make you bump up. And so I bumped up once. That was like the most common one. So it was almost impossible to get. So I would skip weeks and not have it and not be able to do it. I think I missed a whole month once and finally went to a compound pharmacy so that I could have some stability. The compound pharmacy, I don't know, it didn't work the same. I don't know if maybe I just hit a plateau or whatever, but it didn't work the same. And you have to stop taking it like 3 weeks before anyway. So that like carried me through the fall and then I stopped taking it. I think I had to take it either 2 or 3 weeks prior to the surgery. You have to stop taking it. And so I did. That carried me through the fall. I stopped taking it right before the surgery. From pre-op surgery to post-op 3 days later. So not any time to lose anything but weight from the surgery. I lost 10 pounds. So that'll tell you the before and after of breast reduction surgery. 10 pounds. So clearly I made the right decision in having it. Oh, and it was covered by insurance because of all of the other health effects I was having, shoulder pain, and I did have a pinched nerve in my neck and all of the other things. So it was covered. And here's what has to happen. They have to take off enough for insurance to consider it worthy. And I got lucky and they consider it worthy. Now, it still cost me a little bit of money out of pocket because it wasn't a fully covered surgery, but it was way less than I would have if insurance hadn't covered it. And it wouldn't have been accessible to me if insurance didn't cover it. So I have the surgery. It's the end of the year. I'm like an idiot. 2 weeks after surgery, I'm standing on stage presenting at a women's conference. And then I think, all right, like this is the beginning of the rest of my life, right? Like this thing that just literally was like a weight around my neck is gone. And I'm going to change my life now. And I don't know I don't know what happened. I don't know why the sudden shift. I think because I had spent a year really doing everything I was supposed to be doing and not seeing any results as far as feeling a lot better or losing any weight or being looking more fit. I clearly was more fit because I was able to do more things in class than I ever was before, but I didn't feel that way all the time. And so then knowing I was doing all that and then having this like almost instant change when you start taking those medications. Oh, because I'm sorry, what I failed to tell you was I went on this GLP-1 and within 3 months, 4 months, I lost 30 pounds. And more importantly, I, before I even started the GLP-1, just on the metformin, which, helps with your blood glucose levels, I remember going to the grocery store and being like, oh, it's so quiet, this trip to the grocery store. My like internal monologue is silent. There's no nagging about not being allowed. There's no there's no competing voices of, I really want this Trader Joe's ice cream and you shouldn't eat that, you filthy pig. And like those, or like, I'm going to have this for dinner, but that might be too high in salt. And what do I do? Like when I didn't notice, I heard all these people talk about GLP-1s and food noise. I had heard all these people say food noise, food noise, food noise. And I was like, that's not happening to me. I don't know what's happening to me, but it's not that. I don't have an eating disorder. I don't have disordered eating. I had kind of sort of gotten to a point where I was like, I think maybe I do have disordered eating because I keep looking at food as this ultimate answer for everything and or the ultimate cause of all the pain. Like I had given so much power to food and to my consumption of food and my preparation and my relationship with food that it had become disordered. Whether it started that way or not, I don't know. But this whole, like, I was wrapped in this cycle of like, I'm either doing it right or I'm doing it wrong. And it's all my fault one way or the other. And food is to blame. And I guess I'm just going to be this person that has a terrible relationship with food and I'm going to be overweight all my life and I'm going to be miserable. Whatever. It was bad. It was bad. But the GLP-1, I mean, the even prior to the GLP-1, the metformin, I immediately noticed that I was not the same person. I was not constantly thinking about food. I was not waking up in the morning wondering what I was going to eat for dinner. I was not measuring like my intake all day, good or bad. I was constantly thinking about it, constantly measuring it, constantly judging myself for it. When I tell you that I have been on every food plan imaginable, you name it and I've done it, and I have paid out the eyeballs for it. It didn't matter how expensive the supplements or the shakes or the whatever, I've done it. To go to a grocery store and just buy what I needed without the like internal war that used to go on was like, I didn't think I was ever going to be that capable of being that person. I remember joking like, oh, I wish I was somebody who forgot to eat, or I wish I was somebody who didn't think about food all day. But like, I didn't know that was accessible to me. As it turns out, when your body is doing what it's supposed to be doing from a chemical perspective, that noise goes away. And first the metformin, then the GLP-1, like it just led to so much of a healthier relationship with my body and with food than I ever dreamed imaginable for me. So I went from somebody who was like, I can't use that. It's a crutch. It's for really sick people or really obese people, or not me. Like, I can't do that. Also, I had this big fear of like, oh my God, once I'm on it, what if I never get off of it? Or if, like every other thing I've ever tried in my life, what if I go on it and then I go off and I gain back double the amount of weight that I have? Because I have gained and lost. I've probably gained and lost 1,000 pounds in my life cumulatively over all the times I've gained and lost. One other thing happened during this time. If she ever listens to this, she'll think it's crazy. But there was a friend I know from our blogging days was sort of live blogging, if you will. Like she was really keeping us all up on her GLP-1 weight loss journey. And it was really eye-opening, her experience with it and how she was living her life. She was somebody who I really admired because she just loved food, and not in a like weird way, in a like she loved the preparation of it and the baking of it and the consuming of it and all of that stuff. And one of the reasons actually she would say she didn't try it in the beginning was because she was afraid she was going to stop loving food. And so she didn't. And she still had the like, I'm prepping and whatever. Anyway, I was watching her and she was very open about it. And that was so helpful because it was like not only someone I knew and admired, but also she was just really honest about the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And it just took a lot of the stigma and a lot of the like guilt away from using it. So, and meanwhile, I'm still doing all the same things I was always doing. I'm eating fairly well. I'm exercising regularly. I'm moving my body a ton more. And also now I'm not constantly thinking about what I'm eating or what I'm not eating or how I'm eating it or what I'm eating with whatever else I'm eating and, where I'm eating and all of the things that used to consume me. It's just gone. So I get through the surgery. I'm contemplating. At that point I had lost. So with the surgery combined, I'd lost 40 pounds. I would have said 40 more to go in order to be at a healthy weight for my age and body style. As my gynecologist, who I love, said to me, you're never getting back to your weight in high school. You're never getting back to your weight in college, which maybe for some people is not true. Like, I think that the woman I was talking about, that I followed her story, she is tiny now. Like, she's a tiny person now. And so I think there is a way to get back to it if that's what your body wants. But I also understood her to be like, no, sometimes our bodies just change in a way that we're never going to be that. And that's okay, actually. I was like, that's fine. Like, at that point, honestly, the vanity was mostly gone. And it was really more about like, I just want to feel like myself again. I don't feel like myself. I feel, because no matter how much weight I had gained over the course of my life, I was always strong. And I always had like pretty good endurance. Like, I could go out and walk for miles and miles and miles and miles, even at a heavy weight. In that year, in the last, in the 2 years leading up to my breast reduction surgery, post hysterectomy, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel strong. I didn't feel capable. I didn't feel like I had a lot of endurance. Everything hurt. Everything took a lot. Like, walking up and down stairs took a lot. We would joke after the hysterectomy when I would try to like lift things. My middle daughter would be like, "You're post-op." Like, she said that for like 18 months. The surgery, she would like run in and grab things from me and be like, "You're post-op." Or I would complain like, "I don't understand why it takes me so much just to get up the stairs." And they'd be like, "Oh, well, you're post-op." And I would say like, "No, that doesn't count anymore. Like, you can't be post-op for 2 years." So I didn't, the pounds, the scale didn't matter to me. The size of my clothes didn't matter to me. It was really more like, I just want to feel like myself. I want to feel good, and I don't want to feel old before my time. And I don't want to feel like I can't do things I used to be able to do. I'm only 50. I'm not 80. And so it was okay that I wasn't going to get back down to like a high school weight. But I had now been to a point where I was like, well, I've lost these 40 pounds and I'd been so off and on with the GLP because of just various life circumstances that I was like, I don't even know if this is because I'm not taking it, I am taking it, whatever. I was really hesitant in the beginning to move up, but then I did move up and nothing really happened again. So I actually went back to that same doctor right before he moved, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to stay on this, but also now I'm a little bit afraid to go off it because of the food noise piece. So like, can I just bump down to a lower level? And she was like, let's try a different kind. And I have another friend who was on this kind. So I was first on a semaglutide, which is what everybody talks about. It's Ozempic and Wegovy. I was on Wegovy, and then I was on the compound pharmacy version of semaglutide. And then she wanted to switch me to a Tirzepatide, which is Zepbound is the brand name. And I think there's another one, Mounjaro maybe is a brand name for it. And those are specifically designed for weight loss. They are not diabetes medications. So she's like, your A1C's been fine. We don't really need to keep you on the semaglutide, but this Tirzepatide has proven really great for all of the weight loss pieces that the same thing semaglutide. So honestly, they're both GLP-1s. So this is where I need like a doctor to tell me. I don't think they're terribly different, but Zepbound and Mounjaro, the Tirzepatides, are known to have fewer side effects and to be a little bit more sort of targeted toward weight loss versus diabetes and A1C. That said, I was like, well, we were treating me for this. So I stayed on Metformin and I switched to Zepbound, and not much has changed. I am actually, I think that, and this is a personal experience, so don't take this as any kind of advice or anything else, but my side effects from Zepbound are worse than the side effects that I had with the semaglutide. And like both of them, they get better over time. You learn to manage it. You understand what you need. Here's what the GLP-1 has done for me that I didn't fully expect. So a couple things happen. And I think this is like my theory on why people gain weight when they go off of them. Because I think when I took that first semaglutide, I was like, because I had the surgery in my mind, I was like the most disciplined person. We went on family vacation. I didn't even have ice cream. Like, I didn't drink. I like spent 2 months like with this austere, fiberful, sugarless diet. because I was like, I'm getting my A1C down. I'm having that surgery. Like I was committed. And then I had the surgery and I went back to sort of normal life, but normal life understanding, like you can't eat. Well, first of all, I didn't want to eat the way I used to be eating. But I did, I started putting sugar back in my coffee. I started putting, I have ice cream occasionally now. Like I eat sweets and I was not eating anything before. I now just sort of live like a regular person who doesn't have to worry about their blood sugar. But also these medicines make you really have to pay attention. So like the quote unquote side effects are really dependent on how else you're taking care of your body, I think. So like I started taking a B12 supplement, and I really watch my fiber intake and my protein intake. And I really have to be careful that I stay hydrated, because if not, you get a headache and your digestion's even worse. It's even slower if you're dehydrated, and like your muscles will start to ache. And like there can be a bunch of side effects if you're not taking care of yourself in addition to taking this medicine. And I also think that's probably why people gain a lot of weight back, is that they don't actually take care of themselves while on the medicine. So when they go off the medicine, there's nothing left. There's nothing left to, they're just eating like not great to begin with, and then they go off this medicine. That's a theory. I have no idea if that's true or not, but I know there's like this concern that there's this bounce back of when you go off of it. But what I have noticed, again, this is where my sort of health coach stuff kicked in, was I understand that like you need fiber and you need protein and you need, and you need enough vegetables and minerals in your diet to keep your body working properly. I also know that you can get that from food, that you don't need super expensive, crazy supplements. I also know not to fall for the like, oh my God, you need 1 billion grams of protein, or you need 1 billion grams of fiber. Like now we're on to fiber. We were on protein before, now we're on fiber. If you listen to if you follow any like social media wellness people, they'll change what you need at any given time. I knew enough, thankfully, to not fall for that stuff. But I also knew enough to be like, oh, if this thing is slowing my digestion, then probably there's some other stuff going on. So let me talk to my doctor and also pay more attention to sort of what's working for people with it. So I take magnesium to help with digestion. I take a B12 supplement, because that's one of the things that you can be deficient in when you're on this medicine. I make sure I'm drinking plenty of water. I also add the little like electrolyte things into my water after I work out, because sometimes your electrolytes can be, you stand a greater risk of dehydration and things like that when you're on these meds. And I've also been given, and this can be like a whole different episode. I actually have a guest I'd love to have on to talk about it, the menopause piece, because the estrogen and progesterone piece. So we started out with my doctor saying, let's get the weight taken care of and then we'll deal with the hormones. Even though she gave me some hormone supplementation, she's like, we're going to focus here and then we're going to focus there. So sure enough, we did. After my breast reduction surgery, after my A1C dropped, she's like, okay, let's talk about your hormones. And, she put me on an estrogen patch because I was complaining of not sleeping well, and I was complaining of hot flashes, which don't always have to be like my clients who would come into my office sweating. For me, I would get really red cheeks and feel like I was burning from the inside. So like I was fully expecting like hot flashes, like night sweat type hot flashes where you just get hot and gross and uncomfortable. But no, I was having these weird like red face, like there's an internal fire happening. And I Googled and read like, oh yeah, that's one of the ways they can show up. So anyway, she gave me the estrogen. You do have to do a little bit of like, is this enough? Is it too much? Is it whatever? It can also mess with your digestion if it's too much. So between the GLP-1 and the estrogen, I had to sort of tweak that a little. The progesterone she didn't give me at first. She jokingly called it the I hate my husband medicine. And she's like, so I'm not going to give you that because you didn't really complain about that. And I was like, whoa. Let's slow down. Because I didn't realize that was a thing that you could take care of with a pill. Like, I didn't complain to you about that, doctor, because I didn't think it was something that we could address in here. And she kind of laughed, and I was like, I don't hate him, but I am super irritable all the time with this poor man who has largely done nothing to deserve that level of irritation. Some days he deserves that level of irritation, but there was a good year or two where I was like, this is it. Like, I'm going to have to live with this guy for the rest of my life. And everything he does drives me insane. And I'm laughing because if you ever met the guy, he's like the nicest person. He's so considerate and kind and caring and all of the things that you want in a partner. And I couldn't stand him. I would like have dreams of like, I'm going to get to a place when all my children leave that I could go vacation alone. And like, I used to dream of that stuff. Anyway, sure enough, she gave me the progesterone and I don't hate him anymore. It's a miracle. There's also testosterone you can take if your libido is low or if you are, I don't know. There's all these things that as women, we just sort of accept as like, oh, I guess this is what it's like to be 50. And they don't have to be like that. And I'm going to stop talking about it because that is really that's a whole separate episode because you could talk for an hour about it, but it shouldn't be separate from the overall care that you're receiving. I started this all out because of hormonal shifts that caused this like insane bleeding and, growth of endometrial tissue and fibroids and all of the other things that were sort of off that tend to get ignored in women. And then that led to this, let me lose weight with this GLP. Let me then readdress the hormones shifts. Because also she told me that just because I kept my ovaries didn't mean that all my hormones didn't drop precipitously, which they had. I had almost nothing in my body when we went to this. So your hormones are important, but they aren't always the only thing to address at the time. And in fact, I've had so many conversations with women now over the last few years where it's usually some combination of a GLP and hormone replacement. So the most important takeaway of all of this is to find a doctor that is responsive and that understands women's hormonal health, because my journey could have been a lot less time if I had found this doctor 10 years prior. And the funny part of this that I didn't say, the surgeon who I loved that did my hysterectomy that I thought was incredible, not the plastic surgeon, the surgeon who did my hysterectomy, and this gynecologist that I found that was like a gift from above. I'm talking to the gynecologist in my first appointment and I talk about the hysterectomy and she said, "Who is the surgeon?" And I literally drew a blank. Welcome to menopause. I was like, I can't remember her name. She worked at this fertility clinic, blah, blah, blah. She goes, "Oh, so-and-so." She says her name and she goes, "We're best friends." And I was like, "Of course you are." And she was like, "I'm so mad at her that she didn't send you to me to begin with." And I was like, "Well, she wasn't my gynecologist at the time. I actually didn't really love my gynecologist at the time, but luckily she sent me to the surgeon. So that was one good thing." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "She should have sent me to you she should have sent you to me right away." And I was like, "Well, that's her one flaw. But other than that, she's been great." And both of those doctors, the reason that I love them and the thing I had in common that they have in common is that they both saw me. They both affirmed my complaints, and they did their job in a way that led to instant change. Even if it wasn't perfect or the whole picture, between the two of them, just to have somebody be like, "Yeah." My gynecologist literally called me with blood work, and the very first thing she said is, "Well, you're not crazy. All these things that you talked about are happening, and here's why. We're going to fix them." Like, I almost started crying, and my kids were in the car. We were actually driving to a funeral. And I said, "I have to answer this phone call because this is blood work and I want to get started right away." And so I said, "You're on speaker." She says what she says. And my kids later were like, "Mom, we were so happy to hear her say you're not crazy. Like, we've been watching this." They were old enough to see like their mom is a mess. And thankfully somebody's finally listening to her. So that would be, the wonder in the weeds of women's healthcare, of being ignored, of being pushed away, of being told to just lose weight or take a walk after dinner or whatever other stupid advice I was given. The wonder in it is that out there are really responsive, incredible physicians who, when you find them, it is life-changing. And you learn along the way to be such an advocate for yourself. And it sucks that we have to, but I actually love that part of me. The part that was like, you know what? Enough. Like, I have suffered enough. I'm not going to keep listening to you as if I don't know my own body, and I don't know that it shouldn't have to be like this, and that you should be able to figure out something to help me because I'm doing my part. I no longer hate myself because I recognize I'm doing my part. So now you guys need to do your part. I wish I didn't have to suffer through the years in between where I thought I was the problem and that I was the worst human being on the planet because I couldn't seem to get myself together. I wish I didn't have to do that. But in the end, I'm glad for all of it, because it got me to where I am today, which is confident and, gosh, so happy. So happy. It's amazing when your hormone levels are where they're supposed to be, how you can just really like enjoy your life. So that's my wonder in all of this. In the weeds of the last 10 years, the wonder has been embracing the advocate part of myself and also being able to really embrace all the goodness in the world and life, because I am able to feel better and be my whole self and get back to who I am. So that's the wonder for this one. But there'll be more of these. Don't worry, I'm not done talking about women's health, but I just wanted you guys to have the full context of my story so that you know where I'm coming from when I talk about all the different pieces. And hopefully we'll get some experts on to talk about menopause, wellness, and hormone health and all of that stuff too. In the meantime, keep looking for the wonder in the weeds. I promise it's out there. Take care.